So, we've got less than a week until the Championship season kicks off, and rightly so, now is the best time, with most teams finishing their friendlies and doing a lot of their business, for me to put my predictions out of how I see the entire Championship ending. So, what you'll see on my right hand side here is a blank template that we're now going to fill in. I've decided to go through all the teams alphabetically, just so that there's no jumping straight to who the champion is or this, that, and the other. But below, what I will hopefully get nicely set up is each of the individual teams. So you can jump to the teams that you're interested in, or of course, you can play along with us alphabetically. But let's jump straight into it. And of course, the first one is Blackburn Rovers. Now, Blackburn absolutely had a bit of a tough season last year. One of the worst defences, the third worst defences in the league. And so I was hoping to see a lot more backline structuring for them. However, keeping Schmoditz so far, which we've still got a month to go, has definitely been one of the most crucial bits of business for them. He scored 50% pretty much of their league goals last season. And yeah, if they can genuinely keep hold of him, even if it is until January, I think that might be what really keeps them from being a relegation candidate. Because of this, I don't expect anything too impressive from Blackburn. Sorry, Rovers fans, but I've actually put you down in 17th. I think that is quite likely for this team. Okay, so now we move on to Bristol City. Another team that I always find is just really tricky to play. Like when your club comes up against them, you can't really ever call yourself like a real clear favourite. They just have that about them where they seem to be able to beat everyone, but then they're also never truly the favourite themselves. Looking at last season's team, losing Matty James, and Scott Twine, is going to lose a lot of creativity in this midfield. There is one lad, Yu Hirakwa, I hope I've pronounced that right, who looks really, really good. Tell me what you think, Bristol City fans. I'm sure you've seen a bit more during the friendlies. Stats look good. I mean, but he's unproven, so I'm not going to put too much on it. And then they've got themselves another forward up front who I'm hoping will be what they've been really missing most seasons, which is a 20-goal a season sort of striker, in Fali Mayula. He did all right out in the European main continent. Looks, like there's some excitement around Bristol about it. So if both of these catch light, I expect this prediction to be very wrong and them to rise up the table a bit. However, the fact that the team they've got is pretty all right. They've lost, as I say, a lot of that sort of midfield creativity. For the minute, I've got them in 14th. But yeah, let me know what you think, Bristol fans, of these two players. I'm very interested. So, Burnley, very quickly we get on to what is one of many, many people's favourite for automatic promotion, at the very least playoffs, potentially even champions. Look, from my point of view, Scott Parker, I rate him massively as a manager. He maybe hasn't done it all the best when he gets to the Premier League, but he is one of the best managers for getting teams out of these leagues and into the Premier League. And what he's inherited is probably one of the better squads. And he's been able to keep it together, to be fair. It's a hard one, to be fair. They've also made a weird decision this time to play 90% of their friendlies behind closed doors. Mixed feelings, it seems, online from Burnley fans and sort of football fans in general, of some saying no one cares about friendlies, so fair enough, at least fans don't have the sort of feel of obligation to buy tickets. For me personally, I love a little day out for a friendly because the game doesn't mean too much. You get to see some players, see some goals, have a bit of fun, see clubs that you never normally would see. Tell me what you thought of that, Burnley fans out there. But for me, obviously, what it does do is it means we don't really get a lot of chance to kind of draw a little bit of a hint towards how they're shaping up under a new manager and a new system. The one bit I have been very impressed with, although they lost Muric, they very quickly swapped it back the other way with Ipswich and got Hildaki in, who, again, painfully for a Norwich fan like myself, very, very good goalkeeper last season. So I feel like where we maybe would have expected quite a few Burnley players to go disappearing and wandering off to other clubs, we haven't really seen that. If they can keep it that way until the window closes, I think I've got a fantastic team here. But look, let's cut to the chase. If everything clicks well, which I think it will, again, I think Parker's very, very good at being able to come into teams like this in the summer and get the team going. I think that Burnley will be finishing second and going straight back up into the Premier League. So we're motoring through these and we're down to C already. And of course, the first C is going to be Cardiff City. Two Welsh teams still in the Championship, and Cardiff being the first of them when we look at it this way. Last year was definitely, if you had to define it, was, win or lose. There wasn't a lot of draws going on, which obviously helped Cardiff get nice and comfortable in the league, but didn't really allow them to fully kick on, let's say. I think Willock is a fantastic signing to have stolen him off of QPR. I think hopefully that will bring them a lot more creativity in midfield, while Ahmed El Ghazi coming back to the Championship. Someone who has seen many promotion campaigns. If he is coming back with the right mindset to really kick on in his final sort of 2-3 years of playing football, I would say it could be really impressive. However, they had Nathaniel Phillips, who was a key player for them, has gone back to Liverpool, of course, and they haven't re-signed him on loan. They have signed Callum Chambers, which I think was a good signing, but I would have kind of liked to see both of them to really end this defensive instability that they have. So because of that, I have put Cardiff in 15th. I think it'll be a reasonably solid season, but I can't see them pulling up too many trees, to be honest. It will really take, as I say, I think a couple of these new players in midfield are turning up the heat quite a bit, and this defence finding a new click that it just hasn't before. So the second and last C are semi-finalists in the FA Cup last year, and probably should have been finalists, but enough about that. Coventry City. Always one of these teams that just constantly floating around the sort of top 10 of the Championship. And I think it's fair to at least give it away for now that they will be doing that again this season. I'm sure of it. Look, Callum O'Hare, I thought was going to be a really, really big miss for them since he signed for Sheffield United. But I've spent a few hours today just flicking through all the teams, having a look at the transfers, etc., etc., and I didn't realise how little he started last season. So I'm not 100% sure how much of an impact it's going to have. Obviously, I've seen they've picked up Thomas Asante, and I've always liked him as a player. I think at West Brom, he was always a real pain in the arse whenever we would go up against them. And I think he could do really, really well in the Coventry system, giving Sims a little bit of cover as well, because he does have that chance to play up front. Look, I think that they've done pretty decent strengthening of the squad, and I also think that it's probably quite unlikely they'll have a very deep run in the FA Cup again for what would be, third season running. Because of this, I think it's very, very fair to say that Coventry this season will be finishing 6th, and they will be into the playoffs, and I think at the end what we'll do is we'll put a prediction for who will be winning the playoffs, just so we can all see exactly who it is. But yeah, solid position for Coventry. Oh, Derby. Well, it was a little bit of a ghost walk into the league in the end. While they did, of course, come up automatically, it did go down to the final day. It was a little bit nervy for a little bit of time. It's good to see Derby back in the Championship. It was tumultuous times for a while, and I think a lot of people anticipating a potential another Bury on our hands. So, good to see them back, of course. Having looked through the squad, I struggle a little bit with their defensive options. I think there's a very small amount of players in there, and a lot of forwards, which always worries me with a promoted team into any league. Sometimes it does need to be build from the bottom, and you'll sort yourself out up front later. I think an injury or two or a couple of key suspensions could really see them losing hand over fist points, and that is always going to be a struggle. The other thing I found was the players they do have that have previous champion experience haven't been in the Championship for a good, at least 3 to 4 years, sometimes 2 at the best. And then beyond that, it's a lot of very young players who, at the end of the day, may very well turn up and be absolute barnstormers. They could have 3 Jude Bellinghams in there, I don't know. But it doesn't look like it so far, put it that way. So because of that, unfortunately, Derby fans, I think you're going to have a whale of a time, pick up the odd decent result here or there, but I do think you're going to be finishing down in 24th and be returning to League One as of next season. So, the Tigers. I did a short a little bit earlier last month talking about the loss of Liam Rosenior, which to this day I still think is the worst idea, the worst choice that your club could have possibly made. But also talking about some of the key players that you were losing. And since then, Philippe Badis has also been sold to Aston Villa. Losing Matt Ingram, who was your key goalkeeper on top, and Jacob Greaves, to Ipswich, just down south from me. I think, again, is a really, really hard one to replace. And so far, scrolling through the squad, I've not seen players of that calibre get replaced by Hull. Look, I think you're really going to need a couple more breakout stars this season. Just like the names that I mentioned in the seasons they had last season, you're going to need a couple of players like that to come out of the woodwork to really have another good season and get in touch with that playoffs. And unfortunately, that is why I'm putting Hull City down in 13th for this season. I think that is probably the most realistic chances they're going to have. I can't really see a playoff push this year, unfortunately, Tiger fans. So, Leeds. Leeds obviously are going to be a lot of people's favourite, and as a fan of Norwich and knowing what Daniel Farke can do for clubs in a second season, I really wouldn't be surprised. However, I do think that the recent loss this weekend of Somerville is a huge hit, and I'm not 100% sure, whether they are going to be looking to replace him directly with the money gained or not. I think if they don't, that could be a really, really big impact on how well Leeds actually do this season. He was such a pivotal part to getting them all those points last season. Similar to Derby as well, it's such a tight squad, which Farke does like, but it does open up that sort of issue where you get a couple injuries here or you get a couple suspensions there, and suddenly, again, you're kind of like what I said for Derby, especially in the Championship, where sometimes you're playing, quite frequently 3 games a week. An injury can knock you for quite easily 8, 10, 15 points. And suddenly you blink and you miss it sort of territory. So I don't think they're going to walk it as some people do. I think they've got fantastically strong players in all 11 positions, absolutely. I'm not seeing as much rotation. That's where I'm probably concerned. I think the other thing is they definitely got enough points last season to get automatic promotion. But this year's Championship, I think, is a lot more competitive throughout the whole 24 than last season. And I don't think we're going to be seeing 3 clubs with 90 plus points. So because of that, I see Leeds sitting in 3rd again this season, picking up less points. And I would only change that, I think, if they replace Somerville with someone of equal quality or close to. So we come to the Hatters, Luton Town. Back in the Championship after a very noble effort, very unlucky as well, in some cases, I think, last season to not stay in the Prem. But we're glad to have you back, and on January 1st, I will be down there walking through people's gardens to see the stadium for itself. Luton have done really well in my position, in my point of view, sorry. They lost Osho and Barkley. They were the main 2 sort of key players I saw have left this summer, but I feel like they have replaced them pretty well with a couple unknowns from the mainland Europe. I think it's one of those things. It's going to be another strong squad. Leadership is the same, management is the same. Everyone's going to be pulling in the same direction they have now for a couple of years. The only thing for me as well with Luton is it's one of those things where it's a lot of it is built on hard effort, let's say. When they went up to the Premier League, it was very much they were not the favourites to go through the playoffs. They'd done very well that season to get the points they did. But I don't think it's the sort of squad that really dominates all of these clubs that we're going through one by one, personally, unlike sort of a Burnley, maybe even Leeds would, something like that. I think Luton will have a fantastic season. But I don't see them being champions. Obviously, that's the only high spot we're missing here. I do, however, put them in 4th. I think they will be making the playoffs again. And if they do make the playoffs, well, we're not going to discuss it yet, but I do think they will be one of my favourites, I'm sure, to be doing very, very well and most likely getting to Wembley again. But we'll come on to that a bit later. Middlesbrough. So we are at the Ems already and we're starting to get close to having this table halfway full. Tell me what you're thinking of it so far down in the comments. Look, Middlesbrough for the past couple of seasons have been building really, really nicely on the Michael Carrick. A manager I really, really have enjoyed watching his progress, and I think he'll do some fantastic stuff. They've kept all their key players from last season, which is, I think, for me, and especially in the Championship, is usually one of the hardest and most important things to do. So that's really, really good to see. Again, it's similar to what I just said with Luton. Same management, same sort of playing style. There's nothing that needs to be relearned. No reinventing of the wheel. And there's been a couple nice additions in there as well this summer, just to kind of bolster the squad a little bit. Look, because of that, I think that what we're going to see is Middlesbrough sat in 5th, making up that final playoff spot that we were just talking about. And I think that's going to be one heck of a playoffs. So we hit the Mighty Lions, Millwall, the pride of London, I'm sure. Look, they had fantastic form at the end of last season. I think a lot of people are probably romanticising that because I've seen a lot of people putting them in playoffs, which obviously, in my table, they're not going to be in that at this point. However, I do think they're a mighty fine team. Play some really, really rugged stuff. And I think they will yet again play the game their way, cause people problems, utilize the absolute, utilize the den, to the best of their advantages. And I think they'll have another really, really solid season in what seems to be a really nicely slow-burning, progressive project that's going on there. Look, because of all of that nonsense I've just said, I've gone and put Millwall up in 8th. I think that's fair. I think, as I say, it's another little step forward. I don't think it's too long until we start seeing these guys, if they keep on the same progression, fighting for those playoffs on a regular basis and looking to get back into the Prem. So we hit the mighty Norwich. So, of course, it's first. Oh, God. I wish, but no, of course it's not going to be. I'll take that one straight off the table for any Norwich fans who are watching this as well. I don't think any of us are crazy enough to think that we're cruising this championship title, unfortunately. Look, it is a transition season. That's the biggest thing and the biggest message I would say to any Norwich fan. So we are going to have to be flexible. Normally, I would say that before I evaluate any season, any manager, I would say 10 league games. This season, I'm not going to be putting any commentary or thought out of how Norwich are doing, bar a game review here, obviously, and things like that. But overall, how we're actually doing until 15 games into the season, because look, we're going to be learning a completely different style of play from what we had with Wagner to what we have under Thorup is a completely different kettle of fish. Obviously, the sale this weekend of Sarah has demoralised a lot of the fan base, and I'm sure a lot in the club as well. That is a hole that we probably are not going to fill in the next month. It's a rebuild season, and I don't expect it to be an absolutely disastrous one. That is why I have gone and put Norwich into 10th, as you will now see on the table. I think it's a fair shout. I think I haven't been too pessimistic as a fan, but also I haven't been too biased as a fan. Norwich, look, I think we've got an enjoy the pain as well as the growth this year. So we move on to another promoted club, club that actually Norwich have got first thing on Saturday. So I can't wait for that. Going to be getting myself hopefully set up, ready to do a watch along. So please, drop a subscription on this one and come join me for the watch along. Oxford have done mighty fine to get to where they are, and an ex-Norwich boy, Josh Murphy, scoring the 2 goals at Wembley to get them up into the Championship was fabulous to see. I think they've got a great little team here. They've definitely built themselves a nice squad. As a yo-yo team ourselves, sometimes it's also good to build a squad ready to go down, and that's what I feel Oxford have also been able to do. They've got a squad that's now way too good for League One. Do I think that it is going to be good enough, obviously, for the Championship? Personally, for me, they are going to definitely give it a good go. They've definitely put a pretty tasty midfield together, but I don't really see enough in the back line and up top where I think they're going to be competitive enough to pick up enough points. Look, Oxford, I think it's going to be a good fight. Absolutely. It's definitely going to be good for your financial coffers, but I do see you going back down in 22nd. And I do see it being close between those sort of 5 positions above you as well. So, I hope that isn't too disheartening. So let's go down to the furthest travels that Norwich fans will be making. Plymouth Argyle. Look, we'll cut straight to the chase with this one. They had a really, really decent start to the season last year, but just couldn't keep it going, and then were able to scrape through at the end. Survival. For me as well with this one, the Wayne Rooney factor is a huge one. How the hell he is still getting jobs off the back of doing a pretty half-decent job of trying to keep Derby up. And as I say, it was a pretty decent job. He tried his absolute best with a team that was, down and out. But how he's getting jobs, I don't know. And I do not think that someone who took Birmingham from basically 6th to the relegations last season is still getting a job. Look, Morgan Witt is going to be the biggest and most important player here. If he's not firing, these lot it will potentially change my view of 24th and be allowing Derby a place up. Or if they lose him as well, I think they're going to have really big problems. I just see it being a real season struggle, if I'm being honest, Plymouth. And unfortunately, that is why I've got you making up the final relegation space in 23rd. I just can't see it happening. So we'll move a little bit further east, but we'll stay on the south coast, and we're going to hit Portsmouth now. Who actually took Josh Murphy for a free off of Oxford United after that Wembley final. And I think that's a fantastic signing, to be honest, as well, along with so many of the other signings that they've made. They've got really nice balance, good depth in the squad, a lot of talented young squad players, but also there are some There's a little bit of experience in there as well, just to help those youngsters through. They were comfortable champions of League One in the end as well, last season. And for me, look, I don't see them absolutely, doing an Ipswich and going 2 promotions. I don't see them burning any houses down or anything like that. But I do see them getting some really solid results. The odd scalp here, and I think that's going to culminate in a 16th place finish, and I think a really, really hard-earned one, and hopefully quite a comfortable season for Portsmouth fans to enjoy being back in the Championship. So now we'll shoot ourselves a lot further up north. We're going to go to Preston. Preston North End, of course, one of the most long-standing Championship clubs. I can't really remember a season where Preston weren't in the Championship. Anyway, 2024 kicked off really, really well for them, but it just died an absolute death at the end of last season. They lost so many games and went from looking like someone who was going to pit my club Norwich to the playoffs and give Hull a run for their money as well, to just mediocre sort of finish to the end of the season. They've also lost a couple of key players. Alan Brown's gone off to Sunderland and Liam Miller has gone off to Basel of all places, which I think is going to hit their midfield quite hard. I just can't see where the goals are going to come from. Will Keane's their only player last season that got double digits, and that was only at 13. Everyone else kind of chipping in with 4 here, 3 there. One goal being scored by 6 or 7 players, and I don't think it's going to be enough. And I think it's going to be quite a rough season for Preston, if I'm being honest. And unfortunately, that's why Preston fans, I have you down in 19th. Apologies for that one, but I don't like the look of the squad at the minute. So from a team that I think is going to struggle with goals this season to a team who did struggle with goals last season, QPR, Queen's Park Rangers. I think, again, another one of these clubs who seem to perpetually be in the Championship at this point in time. Losing Chris Willock in the same way that I said that was going to be a big benefit to Cardiff, I think it's going to be a big negative to QPR. I think that's going to be quite a big miss for them in the midfield. And again, I think this is another one of these clubs where it's like, I feel quite confident with my prediction unless one particular player catches off. And in this case, it's Zan Seller, a new striker that they've bought. You'll have to tell me, QPR fans, how well is he doing in the pre-season so far? Because I really think your season is going to come down to whether he can catch a light and sort this big goal deficit that you guys are finding. Similar to what I was saying in terms of Leeds, this is going to be a much harder Championship this year. And for those clubs that were struggling last season to outscore teams or not concede, I think there's going to be a lot more drop points. And so unfortunately, that is why I have put QPR down in 21st for this season. So we now go to the Twins. We've got the 2 Sheffield clubs, but Sheffield United is up first, as we are doing it alphabetically, no other reason. Look, they had infamously one of the most worst Premier League seasons ever. Only 5 points better off than, of course, the record low of Derby. They conceded the most goals, had a hilarious goal difference of 69 or minus 69. It really was not good. But I felt that getting Chris Wilder back in, an absolute club legend towards the end of last season, kind of settled the boat mentally and emotionally, let's say. And I think that what we've seen in the summer is a bit more steadying of that ship. The signings this season have been really, really shrewd. The names I've been hearing, Callum McCallum came from my club, didn't want to sign for us again, and we've been struggling for left-back ever since, and I've really rated him as left-back. I think he'll be a great player. And some of the other signings that they've got, bringing in Jamie Shackleton from Leeds. I think they've put together a nice little squad here. Quite quietly as well. No big signings, no big losses or sales as well, and I think Sheffield United, therefore, they're going to be my champions. I've put them first. Sorry, Sheffield Wednesday fans. Obviously, that means that there's no way you're going to be any higher than them. But I really see Sheffield being the most put together and the most championship winning squad. It's not the ones that have the big superstars. It's usually the ones that have a really, really good consistency across the board. And I think in this case, it's going to be Sheffield United. So Wednesday fans, come on, let's focus on you because it has been a good summer. Obviously, Danny Roll, keeping him as a manager was fantastic. He's got to be one of the best out there in the Championship and wider right now. That was probably as good as having 2 superstar signings for yourselves. Jamal Lowe as well. That's a lovely little pickup. Well done on that one. I think he could really, really, really be a big difference for you guys. The only question I would pose, and I did pose to myself earlier, is he going to be able to have the same output with yourselves, where you did struggle a bit more creatively and scoring goals last year, versus what he was able to achieve at Swansea. Again, you know, this isn't FIFA, let's say. You can't just pick one player up and have them play amazing because they're rated a certain amount. In terms of defensive additions, again, I think having Valeri come in on the right is going to be great. You've got two massive centre-backs in the middle. It's not a defence that many clubs are going to want to play week in, week out, play against week in, week out, let's say. But as much as there are lots and lots of positives, I do think this is a transitional period. Again, this is not something where you can, you know, sign the right players and just suddenly win everything and shoot up the table. I do think that you will make some great progression, though, this season. And while some people have you as outside favourites for playoffs and things like that, again, I'm not getting too over myself. Transfers are not it. I need to see how it clicks in the first 10 games before I swallow a pill on that one. But I think I've been fair, and what I've done is I've put you in 12th for this season. I think that will be fantastic progression. And if you have another summer like you did this season, absolutely you guys are going to be knocking on the playoffs next year, the year after this, and potentially also having an offside chance of automatic promotion. So we're nearly there, and thank you for sticking with me. And if you have stuck with me all this way, drop in the comments that you made it to the 20th club and watched the whole way. And while you're there, if you wouldn't mind dropping me a like, that'd be greatly appreciated. But more importantly, Stoke City fans, we're on to you. So the vast majority of Stoke's key players from last year have now all moved on. I'm taking a lot of my terrible Swiss cheese memory with this, but also utilising SofaScore's statistics and players. And it was quite worrying to see how your starting 11 really was decimated so far this summer. Look, at the end of the day, I think you have replaced a few of these players very well, but whenever you have a high player turnover, you're going to struggle. Again, it's going to come down to these first 10 games. Do these new lads click well? Do some of them step up to the plate a bit more than we anticipate? Maybe. But look, I think it's one of those things. Stoke have been languishing in and around the mid-table of the Championship for a little while now, and unfortunately I do think that's going to continue, but in a way now that it's probably going to be more down the bottom end of the table. Look, I will just say I'm put you in 18th for the minute, and as I say, a lot of this is down to there's a real rotation of players, and a lot of them going out, not many coming in. So, well, let's shed a little bit of light on it. The Stadium of Light. That was terrible. Sunderland, an absolute brilliant team last season. Great to watch. Really good fun. And mainly because of a young man, Jack Clark, who you guys have done a brilliant job in keeping him. That's like having a brand new, high-quality signing, in my opinion. You've, of course, also got Big Boy Joby, who had his breakout season last year, and I think he'll take another step up this year, really start turning it on. And because of this, and a few little additions that have been put in place to help bulk out the goals and things like that, I'm really, really hoping that you guys will have the season I think you will. I've put you in 7th. I think you've got quality young players there with some really, really good aged players as well to help bring it all together. It's another one of these ones where, again, consistency is king. So we've done Cardiff. Now let's finish off Wales, shall we? Let's cover off Swansea City. I think realistically, all Swansea fans, and in my prediction, myself as well, will be hoping that Zan Vipotnik, hope I got that right, will be making up for the loss of Jamal Lowe's goals. Absolutely. Obviously, with him going off to Sheffield Wednesday now. I also was having a look at this little young lad that you guys have got, Goncalo Franco from the Liga Portugal. He looks a little bit tasty. Again, for both of these lads, let me know, Swansea fans, how well are they doing? Have they been lighting it up in pre-season? Do you feel excited to see them in the Championship? Because they definitely look exciting. I think if these guys kick on in the way that they definitely are showing potential, from my point of view, they can. I think this will be just another really solid season. Hopefully, stepping in the right direction of starting to build back towards, sort of playoffs, sort of maybe in the near future. But I just don't quite see it this season. I've put Swansea City in 11th. I think it's going to be, as I say, another building block sort of era. But if either of those two really light it up, maybe it could be pushed a bit further. So we're at our penultimate club, and obviously we're now down in the W's. The first being Watford. So we're back down in West London. So it's been an interesting transfer window. Obviously brought in Sissoko, which lit up Twitter for a couple of days, seeing him back in English football. I think this is one that's probably going to try to improve the midfield. He's obviously not the Sissoko of Tottenham and so on, but and Everton before. Um, it's one of those things where there's no real proven goal scorer as well. I'm hoping one of your strikers really can light it up, but yeah, Watford, it was a struggle last season for you guys, and I really think it's going to be the same. You've got a lot of players who can really just turn it on for a 10-minute period or a game or two, like Esprilla, for example. He seems to always be one of these players that scores absolute thunderbolts, but suddenly disappears again for 3-4 games. And unfortunately, that's why I've got you guys down in 20th. Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a painful one until you guys have a real turf out and rebuild. I think you're going to keep struggling, unfortunately. And so, look, we're here with the final 24th club, so we'll put it straight in. Of course, that means West Brom fits straight into ninth, and I'm happy with that. I obviously got to this point, and I'd already filled in all the other positions, and I was like, yep, I'm okay with that. We did well to make the playoffs, really tailed off at the end, and there was a couple patches where they were, Leicester started slipping up around December, and it was kind of like West Brom should be catching up with those top two and just couldn't. Top three, I should say. And I just feel like because of that, and because, again, similar to a few of the other clubs that I've mentioned, not really the sort of additions that I would have wanted to see. Quite a few key players disappearing to other clubs. I don't think West Brom, you guys are going to have the same sort of season that you did last season. And especially if you play in a similar way and have similar ebbs and flows of periods of good, periods of bad. I just don't think that's going to pay dividends this time. So unfortunately, yeah, that puts you in ninth. But look, that brings it to a close. Of course, like any prediction, we will see how it goes. What I plan to do is a review in January of how well I'm doing, and then a review at the end of the year of how well I did in general. I hope you liked the video, and I hope you drop me a subscription so that you can see even more content to come. There will be matchday vlogs, watch-alongs, commentary, predictions, everything. And I really, really hope to, of course, also hear from you in the comments. What do you think the Championship is going to look like come May next year? I will see you all in the next one, and I can't wait for next weekend, as I'm sure you can't too.
Just a note from me, while I'm editing this, I obviously realised that what I failed to do last night was put in my playoff prediction that I promised. So we'll rattle through this really quick. I think Leeds will beat Coventry, Luton beat Middlesbrough, and then Luton go on to beat Leeds. Let's be brave. Penalties. It's 1-1 after 90 minutes. But yeah, again, I will see you in the next one.